being a business owner is you have to have a plan, but you also have to have flexibility and be able to adjust and monitor to changes that you're envisioning. And years 0 through 5 went well, and so just made a little different turn on what we're doing for 6 through 10.
Hey, I'm Nate Wheeler. I am the host of Manufacturing Insiders Podcast. Really want to thank you for joining today. I hope that you learned some really great insights from this manufacturing leader that you're about to hear from. I also hope that you'll go ahead and hit that like button on the video and subscribe to our channel so you can see more of the stuff that comes out as we're continuing to publish content. Every like, every subscribe really helps us get this message out. And the message that we're sharing is really just a message of hope for manufacturers. I understand, I work with you guys every day. I understand how many different obstacles are in your faces, from technology to government regulations to competition from foreign and domestic markets. And I really want to share strategies with you on how to deal with these issues. And I think there's no better way to learn than hearing directly from somebody that solves some of these challenges. Thanks for watching today, and look forward to seeing you soon. Welcome to Manufacturing Insiders. Today I have Chris Basgall with me. He is, he took a very interesting journey to running a very successful machine shop. I think any machine shop owner is going to learn something today. He's got a lot of insights. I love the way that he thinks about, picking a market, picking technology, just doing all the things right. Welcome to Manufacturing Insiders, Chris.
Thank you, Nate. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So you took a very interesting route to machine shop ownership. From what I understand, you were a professional musician, you were a teacher, and then you were an executive at a Fortune 500 telecom firm?
World's third largest telecom.
Wow. So, and then you decided to buy a machine shop. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so my career path is not necessarily the typical one, but when I was living in Africa, and I had a little boy, and he was 3 years old at the time, and I was never home. And when I was home, I wasn't home, and so decided with my wife that we wanted to repatriate back to the States and buy a business, so that would be close to home, so I could come home and have dinner with the family every night.
Yeah, absolutely. Which makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I'd love to talk about your experience in Africa. I don't know if we have a lot of time to get into that, but so how long were you in Africa anyway?
Let's see, it was 2015, 16. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it wasn't a super long stint there. What part, like what country?
I was stationed in Kenya. I
Okay.
worked across sub-Sahara, had 21 countries there.
Okay. Did you like it? Did you like what you were doing there?
I love supply chain. Supply chain's a lot of fun, and I had spent 14 years in telecom, and it was a good experience. But, having a son, we had done well, and having a son had changed my priorities, and so wanted a little more work-life balance.
Yep. Good. Well, running a machine shop is not exactly an easy load either. I'm sure you're probably working a lot of hours there too, right?
Yes, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how old is he now?
He's 13 now.
Gotcha. Does he come to the shop and kind of help out, sweep floors, or does he find it interesting?
He comes every now and then, and he does find it interesting. When he was 9, I trained him how to run the robots and other activities, and he thinks it's fun.
Yeah, awesome. So I liked how you decided to pick, to buy this particular machine shop, or just in general, you got to manufacturing as kind of what your target was, and then you decided on a machine shop, and then you decided on a specific, market segment that you wanted to go after. Kind of talk me through that thought process.
So I knew I wanted to buy a business rather than start one from the ground up. And I had a broker and had looked through many different industries, thousands of listings, and I took it by industry and kept narrowing it down until I narrowed it down to manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And within manufacturing, I brought it down to CNC
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very interesting industry, and the particular business that I decided to acquire, I saw a company with a great reputation that had a lot of real estate, which was good for expansion, and then
Right.
also it had an opportunity to increase efficiency and output with technology. So I
Right.
saw it as a good target, and it was in driving distance of home.
Perfect. Yeah. So that all worked out well. And I mean, it's good that you were also already thinking about expansion, because I assume you're thinking if I can get some automation in here, some technology, we can, gather more market share. We can grow the business. We're going to need to grow the physical footprint at some point too. So have you grown the facility?
So we have not grown the physical facility, but we've made a lot of changes in the last 5.5 years. And that was all due to the strategy that I had set up pre-acquisition. I set up a 3-5-10 strategy for looking at bringing in on the foundation technology, automation, and certifications with employee health and wellness and security over the top of that. And because we've brought in so much automation and because we've standardized, I mean, we're a 100% Haas CNC shop. We're 100% Mastercam, Verisurf, High QA, ProShop, ERP. Everything follows on standards because it makes it easier to operate. In addition to the robots, we also had bar feeders, but weren't using them very much, and we increased that. And with the automation, we were actually able to bring down the headcount quite a bit. There are times when we run the robots 24/7. We have the right production work for those machines, and we still do actually quite a bit of prototyping, onesie twosie type jobs, but also with the automation, we can run thousands. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a mix, and haven't had the need to do the expansion yet, but we've been working on multiple prototype programs, and I do see in the future, because of the contracts that are likely coming out of those, that it will require physical expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's amazing. So tell me about the 3-5-10. What exactly is that? How does that work?
Yeah, so for years 1 through 3, it was focused on the technology, the automation, and the certifications. And during that time, for automation, wound up bringing in the robots, started using the bar feeders more appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with on the technology side, with Mastercam, we uh, upgraded to 5-axis, and we also bought some 5-axis trunnions on the hardware side, and it opened a lot of different work that we didn't have the capabilities for before. And then for the certification, AS9100 was a goal that I put in there, and that was because I went and did some data analysis on the market. If you're in the United States and you're not a certified shop, you're essentially, for anything that's type of production and doesn't have a local need, you're competing with the whole world.
Right.
People can outsource to other countries. If you are certified, you're competing with shops that are only certified, and
Mm-hmm.
that was about 13% of the shops at the time in the
Yep.
United States were certified. And so it's a barrier to entry and an opportunity to garner longer term relationships and work that fits this company very well. And so that was years 1 through 3. 3 to 5 were about taking all that technology and automation and applying it to scale so that we could grow. And we, in addition, wound up making some additional technology moves just more the standardization, more for driving standardization, efficiency, etc. We did have high QA in the first 3 years, but in the second year, years 4 and 5, we added ProShop ERP. We also did our CMMC 2.0 compliance. We've got an audit coming up for that later this year. And then we also got JCP certified. So all these things for new opportunities to scale. And years 6 through 10, we're initially focused on either acquiring or creating a product line and having that as a different revenue stream.
Yep.
But based on how phases 1 and 2 of the strategic plan went, we're not going to have time for that.
Right.
Yeah, with the expansion that's anticipated. So it was, and that's part about being a business owner is you have to have a plan, but you also have to have flexibility and be able to adjust and monitor to changes that you're envisioning. And years 0 through 5 went well, and so just made a little different turn on what we're doing for 6 through 10.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a very intelligent plan you put together for, the initial 3 years and then the 5. Not having the experience specifically in the machining space, was there somebody that kind of helped guide you there and put that, helped you put it together and understand what the needs were going to be?
So this was an operating shop at the time. They had been in business for 15 years.
Yep.
And the founder helped on a part-time capacity or an ad hoc capacity over a year. And the shop foreman had remained on, and he remained on for several years before deciding to retire and move out. But there were a lot of lessons learned as well. And yeah, it would have been better to know a little more about the industry. It would have helped. But hey, in business, you never have perfect data.
Right.
To make perfect decisions. And you calculate risks associated with them and make your decisions. Now, moving on last 2.5 years, we've had the same team in place now for that time period. A couple people are from the original team and all the others are new. And we've got a team now that's very familiar with our process. Our process is mature at this point, and they're all marching to the same drum. And it's a team environment where we help each other learn. People care about what they're making. They want to get better and better and feel good about what they're doing at work. And so with the team that I have in place now, they're constantly helping me. We're AS9100 certified, and we have a robust quality statement, but we have a simplified version of it too, which is the customer's king, make good parts, get better and better. And that last item, get better and better, is what we embrace every day. And because I've got such a good team, they're regularly pointing out things for me to consider and helping to make the organization more streamlined, more efficient, and helping with, we'll get a new project, we'll bring in team members and say, how do we want to approach this project? We work on it collaboratively. So I've had a lot of help. And there's also some other shop owners and companies that I interact with regularly. A great group of people. It's kind of like a community. There's a lot of manufacturing in Florida. It's a great place to be. So I've had a lot of help.
Yep. Yeah, I actually just flew in from Florida this morning. I had a 6:50 flight out of Tampa and got back here and came into the office. So got a little tan going on. But no, we have some customers down there and a lot of people in the aerospace. So how do you incentivize, I guess, or what sort of culture are you setting up there, and how are you doing it to encourage the employees to bring these ideas for improvements to the table? Because a lot of people just come to work and put their head down and do what they're told and, get the job done. But it's almost like a sense of ownership that leads someone to say, hey, I think we should try this, or we should do this differently. How do you foster that?
So it really is a culture. It's about, say, hey, we got a project, and let's get some buy-in on this. Let's get some ideas. Two heads is better than one, the old adage. But we've got very experienced people here, and they care a lot about their work. And if everything is top down, then they're not going to feel they necessarily have the freedom to participate in decision making, and it can hamper the morale and the output of the product that you're doing. So we have regular meetings. I'm active on the floor talking with the team members. We have subgroup meetings for different projects, just coordinating together and say, hey, maybe we should try this instead, or let's go do this instead. And it creates that environment of teamwork, and they help each other learn. Like we have Mastercam, and I mentioned we went to 5-axis, and there was some of our team members were not familiar with that, of the programmers, and they needed to train. Plus, there's new things that are coming out all the time, and rather than sending them off to classes, we take different parts either from our local support or from online, or the online through Mastercam or through the web, and the knowledge bases. And then people help teach each other what they learned from it. And it creates, a team environment. There's no competition here. People with competition that seek competition, and I understand and respect that, but it's not what the culture we have. And they usually don't feel comfortable if they come to work in a place like this, because it is such a team environment.
Right. So the technology improvements, the automation, robotics, those sorts of things, how much of that was you're looking at the work that you guys are already doing, and you see that you could, take an operator off of that and replace it with a robot, for example, or, perhaps you can see that adding this piece of technology is going to dramatically improve profit on a job. How much of it was that? And then how much of it was like just knowing that this is kind of the way of the future, and you're almost taking a chance that it's going to work out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I don't think there was much chance involved we did used to have, a large order quantity for us used to be 200 pieces. And 200 pieces is borderline for whether or not you would use a robot. You'd prefer 500 or more, depending on the part. And robots are mature. They've been around for some time, and we've got the Haas Robot Package 1. We started, we were an early adopter. We were number 2 in Florida for getting that package.
Oh, wow.
And we got one, and then 2 months later I bought 2 more because they were working so well, and because we could attract new business for larger quantities as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a combination of not only the reduction in labor, but also employee satisfaction. First of all, you get new toys to play with,
Right.
Toys. Secondly, though, instead of having to do the mundane tasks of loading and unloading parts, that's taken away, which frees them up to do higher level skill and higher level thinking tasks on the job, which they enjoy.
Right.
And so it was also an opportunity to improve customer service and satisfaction, because we can, an order that might normally take 6 weeks to deliver, we can deliver in a week. And so it helped on multiple fronts in going with them, and and looking at the return on investment. I will tell you, there was definitely a learning curve because we were a first mover with them. We worked out the kinks, and we pretty much have them mastered at this point. And you look at a robot at the time, I think the cost was about $55,000, and you amortize that over 10 years, that's $55,000 a year The labor savings on that are significantly higher than that as an X factor. And so it does help with profitability as well.
Right, right. So with the addition of all this technology, do you run into situations where you struggle with the employees wanting to adopt and learn new stuff? Do you ever run into that?
Well, I'd say to a minor extent, but the team, when we are going to make a decision to bring something new in, this is not a decision I'm making in a vacuum. Many of the team members, or all of the team members sometimes, are weighing in on the decision because, you asked me about the culture before. And I think having a management philosophy is important for that. I said, you can't do top down. My version of management is of a leader is somebody that has a vision, can communicate it to others clearly to see it come to fruition without leaving a mess in the wake. So having a vision, communicating it to the team, letting them have the opportunity to buy into it and participate, and team comes up with great ideas, and we've gone different paths sometimes because of those ideas. But then see that plan come to fruition because they got to be part of it and they understand why it's important that we're bringing something new into the shop. And that helps a lot with adoption. Now, resistance to it, sometimes things are difficult, especially on the IT side.
Right.
IT is changing so fast. And, we went from having a very small IT budget to having a very robust IT managed service provider and CMMC compliance and many new software tools. And it's only natural for people to not want to openly resist against it, but to struggle with some of the change. Change is just a lot to bring on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And CMMC is something that, it's been sort of this gray area for a number of years, but now it's like black and white. Like you need it if you're going to be doing aerospace work. Is that right? Or government work?
So if you have flow downs from your contract, from the customer to the OEM, they flow down to you and you're required to do it. We have 3 of our customers that said that we need to be certified by November of 26 as a result of flow downs.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's just another thing that kind of plays back into what you were saying about 13% of the 10,000 some shops in the country having AS9100. You're shrinking your competition pool. And I think that is such an important way for machine shops and just manufacturers in general to think, because I think too many of them are trying to be everything to everybody, and instead they're nobody to nobody. And I think about that from a marketing perspective too, because it's a lot easier for me to get in front of someone searching for AS9100 certified machine shop just as a keyword set than it is for me to get in front of someone across the country searching for machine shops, right? It's just a totally different search scenario. So what works from a practical standpoint, competing with other businesses, works up for a marketing perspective as well.
So,
and same thing with CMMC.
I completely agree. Sorry to cut you off there, but I completely agree. So, when I was setting up this 3510, technology was at the core of it, and I saw this CMMC looming out there, but it's not like it was today. Things have advanced a lot, and now the requirements are actually coming down. And I did see that as an opportunity where the market for the vendor pool would shrink, which means more opportunities for this organization and similar organizations that take the time and expense to get certified. And it is time consuming and it is costly, but it's worth it because it safeguards the data for national defense. And so we didn't originally, when I acquired the shop, there was no website. And so I built a website. And then last year, I switched over to WordPress so that we could start getting backlinks because we had a lot of videos and marketing come on. We did a video on an article for IMTS for 2026 Rockstar for that. We did a video with Haas on the robots, MSC on their and Catamount on their tools and their tool crib, and uh, and several others as well. And that with that comes backlinks, which drive new traffic. And so I set up the website, moved to WordPress, got it set up. Not where it needs to be yet. It's a lot to learn going from doing Google Sites to doing WordPress, but I'm getting there. But we used to, when we got certified, we started getting contacted because companies wanted companies that were either ISO or AS9100 certified.
Yep.
Now, since we've updated that and we are CMMC 2.0 compliant, we finished the project last May, and now we've got the audit coming up so we can be certified. We're starting to get a lot of traffic.
I'm sure.
He's contracting us because they have the same requirement to work with companies that are currently compliant and will be certified in
Yep.
November. So
Yep.
it helps from a marketing standpoint. I'm not really doing much marketing. We've been fortunate that we've got the articles and videos and blogs that are out there, and they're with the backlinks. It drives traffic to the site and brings on new customers. Then we evaluate them because you are right. You cannot be everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know our niche here, and when we see something that's outside of that, we decide, okay, is this something we want to step to, or stay within our wheelhouse? And new customers or prospects appreciate that transparency. If you say,
Mm-hmm.
well, hey, you're not comfortable with this because this is what we do, but we could work towards this if you're interested, or maybe you've got something else you want to do that fits within our wheelhouse.
Right.
And that makes it, that keeps things a lot more controlled here from a production standpoint.
Right. Yeah, I really do love the way that you think about things, from the business planning to, you're more knowledgeable just in what you said, just in knowing the term backlinks. You're more knowledgeable than 90% of machine shop owners. But yeah, I mean, you're thinking about everything correctly. So that's awesome. And by the way, as far as learning it, you don't need to learn it. All you need to do is work with somebody like me. But at any rate, what advice would you have for someone that is kind of kicking around the idea of CMMC? How do you get started? What sort of expense are you going to be looking at? What kind of things are you going to need to put in place?
So my situation was probably a little different from most machine shops in that I had some experience and background and knowledge in IT. I'm not an IT person, but I worked on a lot of projects in the past,
Yep.
and learned a lot about how architectures work because your IT is it's an infrastructure. It's interconnected, and so what happens in one system affects what happens in other systems, and you have to be able to see that to make decisions. And so I had that. Plus, I had an employee that had an IT degree and a Microsoft certification from 20 years earlier, and the two of us put the foundation in for the CMMC, and then I hired we put in a full Fortinet stacks. Of course, there's many other brands, but we did that. We had the local servers, the basic controls in place, and then we hired a IT MSP, NTG, Northern Technologies Group. I had contacted Fortinet. I said, who does support for your systems? And fortunately, NTG was actually in Tampa, and they have offices in the Pentagon and work with many different three-letter acronym agencies, and they are fantastic. And they did a project to help bring us to the finish line on CMMC 2.0 compliance, and they're helping as we're getting ready for the audit as well. And I think that if you don't have experience and you're going to go into this, understand that it does take a significant amount of money, and picking a company that has a very good reputation to work with that will give you a firm fixed price contract to put CMMC 2.0 compliance in place is probably the most important thing you can do. But before doing that, you got to do some prep. It really helps to do some prep work. For example, we scanned files for 2 years so that we could go digital. And we went digital. I put 2 monitors at every workstation and little, in most instances, little compact computers that are in each workstation, set up the servers, did controls on access, and had the team so that they could all access the same files for the job that they're working on from any workstation. So having things digital was important.
Right.
Then setting up a network so it's interlinked was the next step on that. Then we started using spreadsheets and primarily spreadsheets to help control production flow, et cetera, so people could access it, see it. And from there, we put in the CMMC foundation and then hired NTG to come in as the IT managed service provider. And they're still they take care of the issues we have when they come up. And that was the progression that we took. And if you don't have that kind of an IT background, and if you're not that familiar with this, because it is complex, we've got this audit coming up, and we have a pre-audit consultant, Radical, helping us. And then we're using for our C3PL, we're using A-Line, and we need the prep consultant just to make sure our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted as we go into this audit, because it is complex. And trying to learn that on yourself, I think, would be overwhelming for any individual that doesn't have any experience with it. So hiring good professionals and getting a firm fixed fee contract in place for compliance would be my recommendation.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then start with the digitization, because a lot of shops haven't really done too much along those lines either.
Yeah, we used to have travelers, and we tracked that parts could be anywhere of one of 22 places inside the shop or outside of the shop. And if you got one paper traveler, what's going on at the other 21 places? If they don't have a copy of the print of the drawing, the work instructions, how are they working? And so that's why we moved to digital. It really made it a lot easier, and the team enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. It is kind of mind blowing to me, all of the different processes and technologies and softwares and vendors you need to have all of these things in place. It's a huge maze, which if somebody's just getting started out with it, I'm always trying to kind of like draw out like where they would start, just because I don't own a shop, but I can only imagine how overwhelming it might seem.
It could definitely seem overwhelming, and the expense and the time is major as well. It's definitely material. It's not something that you're going to put in place in 3 months.
Right.
We're probably $250,000 into setting it up at this point, and we're going to spend a lot of money on IT this year because of the audit. And I interviewed quite a few companies for it, and the just for the audit itself, same scope, discussed out, I had the cost varying by more than 3x. That's very significant. And when we're talking tens of thousands of dollars on the low end, it's pretty significant on the high end. So there's a lot of range. So shopping around helps too.
Yep. Yeah, and the expense, that is a lot of expense, of course. For any small, medium-sized shop. But the perspective is just that, what is $250,000 when you can now get a $2 million contract from SpaceX, like one of my customers did the other day. Like when you can get in front of these sorts of deals from that investment, it makes perfect sense. I think a lot of shops question whether they will get in front of those opportunities if they do incur the expense. And I think you're proof that they will if they not only do the right things in terms of technology and certifications, but if they have some level of knowledge of how to get in front of potential customers.
Well, this is, I think this does go through, as has been stated publicly, with it being required, it's going to shrink the base very significantly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it does mean more opportunity. And if you do have a website or some opportunity for marketing, it can attract new clients, and it could be significantly beneficial. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. No, I think it's great advice. Well, we are just about out of time for this session, but I feel like we could cover a lot more ground because you've done so many things right. We could dig into each one of them, so maybe we'll have to revisit this another time. But I really appreciate the time you did spend with me today and the knowledge that you share with other owners.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And do we have a moment to touch on one other topic briefly?
Yeah, for sure.
So, talked about standardization and efficiency, how we're 100% hot shop. The benefit of that is a machinist can move from one machine to the next, to the next, to the next, using the same controller, maybe slightly different changes, but as opposed to having a shop with 5 or 6 different brands of machines. The training is difficult, the stress that comes with it can be a lot to take on. And so looking at that kind of standardization is something that I drive in the business to make it simpler and help the team enjoy their work and be more focused on their work rather than figuring out how to use tools. I talked about too how we went to 5-axis and there was, we used to have MX8 2D and then 3-axis on X9 and Mastercam. And a part like this we did for years in we call it the telephone. It's actually an auto part, but we did for years in 3-axis, and then we in 4-ops, and we switched to 2-axis and 5 because we've got this, we've got a hole here, we got a weep hole here on the bottom, we've got a cut here, and a thread here.
Yeah,
and we could move it in 5-axis. Yep. Then we could take that to the next level and put it on a robot and let it run itself. Let the tools come in and, use your tool presetter every few parts and check the tools to make sure nothing broken so you don't have a bunch of scrap when you come in the morning, and just let it run. Having a tool kit with standardized tools so that we can go and use the most common tools from machine to machine to machine and job to job when we're programming helps a lot. Having the Mastercam as our, whether it's lathe, mill, or wire EDM, is one platform to work from. And so all of this helps on training. It helps on getting the team up to speed faster. It helps with morale, helps increase the quality of product that you're putting, and you spend a lot less money on training. We also went with VeriSurf for the inspection that sits inside of Mastercam, which makes it easier to learn that. So these are many different ways in which you can help operations for efficiency, standardization, throughput, output, and while growing a pleasant culture to work at too. And because of the automation, it allows opportunities for bonuses and compensation for a team that does a good job. And it's all of that's part of that strategy that comes together. And throwing in, these were a lot of projects over 5.5 years, and ready to finish up with CMC and then bring on that scaling that was part of the 6 through 10 strategic plan. The shift to the 6 through 10. So very excited about it. Excited about the future with AI. What's going on Well, it's
Yeah.
going to affect programming as
Yep.
well, and just
Quoting and all that.
yes, we're using it in different parts of our business now, and it's exciting. So I'm really appreciative that you took the time to talk with me today and get to share some of the story.
Yeah, it was super valuable. Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to learn about it. How you're thinking about using AI and all that, but that's a whole other conversation that maybe we can get into another time. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. It was a pleasure, and I'm sure anybody that listened, gained some knowledge from it.
Thank you, Nate. The pleasure is mine.
Absolutely.